The grinding noise started small, like a whisper of metal against metal, but my son's voice cut through it with razor-sharp clarity. "Mom, something's wrong with the car." I gripped the steering wheel tighter, trying to ignore how the vehicle pulled slightly to the right. Liam's mechanical intuition had an uncanny accuracy that both amazed and unsettled me. At 6, he could diagnose engine problems better than I could read recipe books. "It's the tires," he said, his small face scrunched up in concentration. "They sound weird." I'm Mackenzie, and until that moment, I thought I had everything under control. My artisanal jam business was thriving, my son was healthy, and my marriage, well, that's where things get complicated. "We should pull over," Liam insisted, his fingers drumming against the passenger door. The sound matched the irregular thump coming from beneath us. I guided Ryan's car into an empty parking lot, the familiar logo of Sweet Orchard Delights, my pride and joy, visible across the street. The morning deliveries could wait. When Liam gets that look in his eyes, you listen. He was out before I could unbuckle, crouching by the front tire like a miniature mechanic. "Look, Mom." The metal's showing through. My stomach dropped as I knelt beside him. The tire treads were worn down to dangerous levels, with steel belts visible in patches. "Jesus," I whispered, running my fingers over the rough surface. "Dad said he got new tires last month," Liam said, his voice carrying that hint of doubt children get when they start noticing adults don't always tell the truth. I checked the other tires, each one showing the same dangerous wear. These weren't month-old tires. These were accidents waiting to happen. My phone buzzed. Ryan's face appeared on the screen, and for the first time in our 12 years together, I let it ring. "Why isn't Dad home much anymore?" Liam asked, still examining the tires with intense focus. "He's busy with work, sweetie." The lie tasted bitter. Ryan's online platform for local crafts didn't require the late nights and mysterious weekend meetings that had become routine. "Like Miss Bennett's car?" Liam's innocent question hit like a sledgehammer. "What about Miss Bennett's car?" "I saw Dad fixing her tire last week. Behind the shop." He traced the worn treads with his finger. "These look the same." The pieces clicked together with nauseating clarity. The mysterious charges at the tire shop. The late nights. The way Ryan's assistant, Olivia Bennett, always seemed to need his help with technical issues. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text: "Where's my car? Meeting in 20. I stared at the message, then at the dangerous tires that could have killed our son. The same tires that apparently came from his lover's car. "Mom?" Liam's voice pulled me back. "Are you okay? Your face looks scary." I forced a smile. "I'm fine, baby. Just thinking about jam recipes." I took his hand, leading him away from the car. "How about we visit Uncle Ethan's garage? He might want to take a look at these tires." "Really?" His face lit up. Ethan Collins had been my best friend since childhood, and Liam worshipped him and his mechanical wisdom. As we walked toward Ethan's shop, my phone kept buzzing. Ryan's increasingly urgent messages painted a picture of panic. "Good. Let him worry." I squeezed Liam's hand, my mind already calculating the next moves in a game I never wanted to play. Ryan thought he could juggle his perfect family man image with whatever he had going on with Olivia Bennett. He thought he could endanger our son and get away with it. But he forgot one thing: I didn't build Sweet Orchard Delights by being sweet. And nobody, not even my husband, messes with my son's safety. Ethan's garage smelled like motor oil and truth. He examined Ryan's tires with the kind of focused silence that always preceded bad news, while Liam watched from a safe distance, perched on a workbench. "These aren't just worn," Ethan said finally. "They're swapped. Look at the manufacture dates." He pointed to tiny numbers stamped on the rubber. "These are at least 3 years old. And they're cheap knockoffs, not the premium brand Ryan claims he bought." My phone vibrated again. 27 missed calls. I switched it off. Uncle Ethan, can you teach me about tire dates? Liam's voice echoed through the garage. Later, buddy. Right now, your mom and I need to talk shop. Ethan's eyes met mine. In my office. The office was really just a corner desk separated by a partition, but it felt like a confessional. You know what this means, Mac? That my husband's a lying bastard who put our son's life at risk? Yeah, I figured that out. No. Ethan leaned forward. It means he's desperate for money. These tires? They're worth maybe $50 each. The ones he claimed to buy? Try $300. That's $1,000 difference. The implications hit me like a punch to the gut. His business. Check your accounts, Ethan said. Now. My hands shook as I pulled up our joint banking app. The password didn't work. I tried again. Nothing. He changed it, I whispered. A knock on the partition made us both jump. Chloe, my assistant, stood there looking uncomfortable. Sorry to interrupt, but Ryan's here. At the shop. He's trying to access the safe. The hell he is. I stood up so fast my chair toppled backward. Mac, wait, Ethan called after me, but I was already moving. Sweet Orchard Delights was only 2 blocks away. I ran, my fury building with each step. Through the front window, I could see Ryan punching numbers into the keypad of our storage safe, the one containing not just cash, but all our business documents. I burst through the door. Step away from the safe. Ryan spun around, his usual smooth demeanor cracking. Where the hell have you been? And why did you take my car? Funny you should ask about the car. I moved closer, watching him shift nervously. Those tires could have killed our son. What? Don't be dramatic. I just had them replaced. With 3-year-old knockoffs? I pulled out my phone, showing him the photos Ethan had taken. Want to explain that? Or should we talk about why you changed our banking password? Color drained from his face. The business is struggling. I needed. Your business or mine? The question hung between us like poison gas. Ryan's silence told me everything. How much did you take? My voice sounded strange, distant. I can explain. How? Much? He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I once found endearing. 200,000. But I can get it back. Olivia has connections. The name hit like a slap. Olivia. Of course. I laughed, a harsh sound that made him flinch. Let me guess, she convinced you to invest in something? Something that required quick cash and complete secrecy? It's a legitimate opportunity. Save it. I moved to the safe, blocking his access. You're not getting anything else from this business. Or from me. You don't understand. If I don't get that money by Friday. Then what? Someone breaks your legs? Finally, a show I'd pay to watch. His face hardened. I want to see my son. Should have thought about that before you put him in a death trap on wheels. I pulled out my phone. Leave now, or I call the police. Your choice. He hesitated, then backed toward the door. This isn't over. You're right about that. I watched him leave, then sank against the safe, my legs finally giving out. Through the window, I saw Ethan approaching with Liam. My son's face lit up at the sight of our shop's familiar sign, completely unaware of how his world was about to change. I straightened up, wiping my eyes. Ryan was right, this wasn't over. But he had no idea what was coming next. The bank statement trembled in my hands as I sat in Sweet Orchard Delight's back office. 200,000 wasn't just a number, it was 3 years of careful planning, countless sleepless nights, and every spare dollar we'd saved. Gone. Chloe knocked softly before entering. I finished the inventory count. She hesitated, fidgeting with her clipboard. There's something else. More bad news? Why not? I'm collecting them like recipes these days. My cousin Teresa works at Bennett's tire shop. Chloe's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. She said Ryan's been there. A lot. Always with Olivia Bennett. The name hit harder this time. Olivia Bennett. The woman who'd helped Ryan swap those dangerous tires onto his car. The one he'd mentioned during our confrontation. How long? Teresa thinks, 6 months? Maybe more. Chloe set a receipt on my desk. She found this in their records. It's from your joint account. $5,000 for consulting services. Dated 3 months ago. The same month Ryan insisted we couldn't afford Liam's science camp. My phone buzzed, a text from Ethan, "You need to see this. Now." I found him in his garage, hunched over his computer. Remember that premium tire brand Ryan claimed he bought? He pointed to the screen. They're not just expensive, they're impossible to get. The company went bankrupt last year. So he didn't just lie about buying new tires. He created fake receipts. Ethan pulled up another window. And look who bought the company's remaining inventory at auction. Bennett's tire shop. They're running a scam, I said slowly. Buying cheap knockoffs, forging papers to pass them off as premium brands. And using Ryan's online platform to launder the money. Ethan's face darkened. This is bigger than an affair, Mac. This is fraud. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number, "Back off or everyone loses." Oh. I showed it to Ethan. Looks like Olivia's getting nervous. You should be too. These people already stole my money and endangered my son. I stood up, a plan forming. Time to return the favor. Mac. I need to get back. Liam's with the sitter. But instead of heading home, I drove to Bennett's tire shop. The closed sign was up, but lights burned in the office. Through the window, I saw them, Ryan and Olivia, heads bent over paperwork. I snapped photos with my phone, then moved closer to the window. Their voices carried through the glass. She knows too much, Olivia was saying. We need to move faster. I'm handling it, Ryan replied. Once the deal closes Friday. She'll have proof by then. Those records in her safe. I told you, I'll get them. Ryan's voice hardened. Whatever it takes. My blood ran cold. The safe. Our safe. With every contract, every bank statement, every piece of evidence that could expose their scheme. The same safe Ryan had tried to access earlier. I backed away, my mind racing. They weren't just planning to steal more money, they were going to destroy evidence. Evidence I could use against them. My phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number, last warning. Walk away or watch it all burn. I got in my car, hands shaking as I started the engine. But I wasn't driving home. Not yet. First, I needed to see someone who knew everything about burning things down and building them back up. The lights were still on at City Hall, where Ethan attended his weekly council meeting. He'd know how to handle this legally, safely. He'd help me protect Liam and my business without risking everything. But as I pulled into the parking lot, another car caught my eye. Ryan's car, parked in the shadows. Empty. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from my shop's security system, motion detected. They weren't waiting until Friday. They were moving now. I slammed the car into reverse, praying I wasn't too late to save the only evidence that could stop them from taking everything I had left. I reached Sweet Orchard Delights in time to see a shadow move past the front window. The security system hadn't triggered the police, just sent me a warning. Ryan knew the codes, after all. He'd helped install them. My hands found the spare key hidden in the loose brick, still there. At least he hadn't thought of that. The shop's interior was dark except for a thin beam of light coming from the office. I moved silently, years of early morning prep work teaching me every creaky floorboard. It's not here. Olivia's voice, sharp with frustration. Keep looking. Ryan's reply was muffled, like he was bent over something. The combination has to be written down somewhere. I eased my phone from my pocket, hitting record. We don't have time for this. Papers rustled. The buyers want proof of clean transactions by morning. Without those documents. I know what happens without them. Ryan's voice cracked. Just keep searching. I stepped into the doorway. Looking for something? They froze like guilty children, Olivia's hands deep in my filing cabinet, Ryan crouched by the safe. The beam from their flashlight caught my face, casting harsh shadows. Mackenzie. Ryan straightened slowly. This isn't what it looks like. I leaned against the doorframe. Because it looks like breaking and entering. Or maybe fraud. Take your pick. Olivia moved away from the cabinet. You don't understand what's at stake. $200,000 of my money? The safety of my son? Try me. Your money? She laughed, a brittle sound. Tell her, Ryan. Tell her where that money really came from. Ryan's face went slack. Liv, don't. The investors want their money back. Olivia's words came faster now. All of it. The tire scheme was supposed to be temporary, just until the crypto investments paid off. Shut up. Ryan lunged toward her, but I was already backing away, phone still recording. What investors? My voice stayed steady somehow. The kind that break kneecaps first and ask questions later. Olivia's smile was all edges. Why do you think we needed your business? Clean money. Legitimate papers. A respected name in the community. You used me. The truth felt like acid. My reputation. My son's safety. I never meant, Ryan started. To get caught? I held up my phone. Too late. Something shifted in his expression. Delete it. Make me. He moved faster than I expected, but years of hauling heavy boxes had made me stronger than I looked. I ducked under his grab, shoving him hard into the filing cabinet. Olivia lunged for my phone. I twisted away, but she caught my arm, nails digging in. The phone clattered to the floor. Get it. Ryan shouted. I drove my elbow back, catching Olivia in the ribs. She stumbled, giving me enough space to dive for the phone. But Ryan got there first, snatching it up. The code. Go to hell. The safe code, Mackenzie. His voice shook. Now. Or I'll make sure Liam. The threat died as headlights swept across the windows. A car door slammed. Police. Anyone inside, come out with your hands up. Ethan's voice. Beautiful, wonderful Ethan, who must have seen Ryan's car at City Hall and followed us. Olivia bolted for the back door. Ryan hesitated, looking between me and escape. Run, I said softly. That's what you're good at. He fled, taking my phone with him. But I wasn't worried. The recording had already uploaded to the cloud, a feature I'd installed after the first time he'd accidentally deleted business photos from my phone. I walked to the front door, hands raised. In here, Ethan. As police flooded the shop, I caught a glimpse of Ryan and Olivia disappearing down the alley. Let them run. The evidence was safe, and now I knew exactly what I was dealing with. They thought they'd chosen me because I was naive. Trusting. Easy to manipulate. They'd forgotten that trust, once broken, becomes the deadliest weapon of all. The police station's fluorescent lights made everything look sickly, including Detective Marshall's coffee-stained tie. So these investors, he said, reviewing my statement. You don't know who they are? Ryan kept that part to himself. I watched Liam through the office window, sitting with Ethan in the waiting area, absorbed in some car magazine. But they're expecting their money by morning. And you're sure about the crypto angle? Asked Olivia Bennett. She seemed eager to talk before they ran. Marshall's phone buzzed. His expression shifted as he read the message. They found Ryan's car. Abandoned at the train station. Something cold settled in my stomach. He's not running. What makes you say that? Because he threatened Liam. The words tasted like metal. And Ryan doesn't make empty threats. Marshall leaned forward. We can protect. No. I stood up. You can't even find him. Outside the office, Ethan looked up from the magazine. One look at my face and he was on his feet. What happened? Before I could answer, my phone chimed. A video message from an unknown number. I pressed play. Ryan's face filled the screen, lit by what looked like dashboard lights. By now you've probably talked to the police. Big mistake. He adjusted the camera. Here's what happens next. You're going to transfer everything in the business account to the number I'm sending. Every penny. Or those investors you heard about. They'll start with Sweet Orchard Delights. Then they'll move on to everyone you care about. The camera panned to show a familiar street. My street. My house. You have until midnight. Don't make me get creative. The video ended. Another message appeared with bank details. Mom? Liam's voice pulled me back. Can we go home? I'm tired. Home. Where Ryan knew every entry point, every security code, every hiding place. Actually, buddy, Ethan stepped in smoothly, how about a sleepover at my place? I've got that new engine model you wanted to see. Liam's eyes lit up. Really? Mom, can I? I forced a smile. Of course. But first, we need to stop by the house to pack a bag. I'll drive, Ethan said quietly. The house looked normal when we pulled up. Lights off. Doors locked. But something felt wrong. Stay in the car with Liam, I told Ethan. Mac. Please. I need to know he's safe. Inside, everything was exactly as we'd left it. Almost. On the kitchen counter sat a fresh jar of jam, one of mine. The label read, Sweet Revenge. Next to it lay a single key with a Bennett's Tire Shop tag. My phone chimed again. Another message, insurance policy in the safe. Midnight. Don't disappoint me. The jam jar caught the light, and suddenly I understood. Ryan hadn't just threatened my business, he'd given me a way to end this. The same way it began, with trust turned to poison. I grabbed the jar and the key, then packed Liam's bag with shaking hands. Outside, Ethan watched me load it into his car. They're not getting anywhere near him, he promised. I hugged Liam tight. Be good for Uncle Ethan. I'll see you in the morning. You're not coming? Mom has some work to finish. I kissed his forehead. Important work. As they drove away, I pulled out my phone and dialed Marshall's number. Detective? I know where they'll be at midnight. But we do this my way. I looked at the jar in my hand, remembering every recipe, every late night, every sacrifice that built my business. Ryan thought he could use my own creation against me? Time to show him exactly what sweet revenge tastes like. Bennett's Tire Shop loomed against the midnight sky, its neon sign flickering like a dying heartbeat. The jar of sweet revenge sat heavy in my bag as I approached the side door, key in hand. Detective Marshall's words echoed in my head, "We'll be 3 minutes behind you. Get them talking. That's all we need." The lock clicked open. Inside, rubber and oil fumes mixed with something else, fear, maybe. Or desperation. Right on time. Ryan's voice came from the shadows. Close the door. I did, letting my eyes adjust. Ryan stood by the service counter, Olivia beside him. A laptop glowed between them, displaying my business account login page. "The transfer first," Ryan said. "Then you get the insurance policy." "Show me what you have." Olivia pulled out a thick envelope. Every dirty detail. The tire scam, the money laundering, all of it. Enough to bury your reputation along with ours. "Unless I give you everything I've built." I set my bag on the counter. "Did you ever love us at all, Ryan? Or were we just part of your cover story?" "Don't." His voice cracked. "Just make the transfer." I pulled out my phone, typing in the account details. You know what the funny thing is? I actually thought about running. Taking Liam and disappearing. I looked up. But then I remembered something about jam making. "What are you talking about?" Olivia stepped closer. "The process. How one bad ingredient can ruin everything." I reached into my bag. Like trust. The jar caught the fluorescent light, its contents darker than my usual recipes. Ryan's eyes widened. "That's the first batch we ever made together." I twisted the lid. "Remember? You said we'd build something beautiful. Something lasting." "Mackenzie, don't." "But you forgot the most important part of any recipe." I lifted the jar. Quality control. Ryan lunged for the laptop just as I hurled the jar. It shattered against the screen, spraying glass and jam everywhere. Sparks flew as the computer died. "No!" Olivia screamed. "The transfer failed." I smiled. "Just like your plan to frame me for everything." Ryan wiped jam from his face, realization dawning. "You knew about the fake insurance policy? The one that would have made me look like the mastermind?" I backed toward the door. "Let's say a little bird at the police station told me about your deal with the DA." Footsteps outside. Ryan's face contorted. "You stupid." The door burst open. Detective Marshall led the charge, officers flooding in with weapons drawn. But Ryan had one last move. He grabbed me, spinning us toward the back exit. "Nobody moves." "She's coming with." Pain exploded in my temple. The world tilted. Through blurring vision, I saw Olivia holding something, a tire iron, maybe. Her face twisted with rage or fear or both. "You ruined everything," she snarled, raising the iron again. Gunshots rang out. Olivia screamed. Ryan's grip loosened. I fell, my head hitting concrete. Voices shouted. Footsteps thundered. Someone called my name. But all I could think about was Liam, waiting at Ethan's house, probably still awake despite promises to sleep. Liam, who deserved better than this mess of betrayal and violence. Liam, who might lose both parents tonight, one to prison, one to... "Stay with me, Mackenzie." Marshall's voice seemed far away. "Ambulance is coming. You did good. You did real good." Darkness crept in at the edges. I thought about recipes, about how sometimes you have to burn everything down to start fresh. About how revenge, like the perfect jam, requires patience, precision, and the willingness to get your hands dirty. The last thing I heard was Ryan, somewhere in the chaos, crying. Not for me. Not for us. But for himself. Just like always. The hospital ceiling swam into focus, along with Detective Marshall's tired face. "Welcome back." My head throbbed. "Liam? Safe with Ethan. You've been out for 6 hours." He leaned forward. "Ryan's asking to see you." "Why would I?" "Because the investors just showed up at the station. Real ones. And they're not what we expected." 20 minutes later, I sat across from Ryan in the hospital security room, a guard at the door. The bruise on his jaw had darkened, but his eyes held something I hadn't seen in years, fear. "They're federal agents," he said quietly. Deep cover. The tire scheme was their way in. Into what? Something bigger. Money laundering, human trafficking, all running through legitimate businesses. He rubbed his face. I didn't know at first. By the time I figured it out. They had leverage. They threatened Liam. His voice cracked. Said they'd make him disappear if I didn't play along. So I created the platform, helped them move money. Then they wanted Sweet Orchard Delights. As a front. I tried to protect you, keep you out of it. That's why. You brought in Olivia instead. The pieces clicked. She wasn't your lover. She was their plant. Watching me. Making sure I didn't warn you. He met my eyes. The affair story was easier than the truth. My laugh felt like broken glass. Easier than telling me our son was in danger? Than asking for help? They had people everywhere. Police, local government. Not Ethan. The words tasted bitter. Not me. I couldn't risk. No. I stood, ignoring the room's spin. You couldn't risk your pride. Your control. Same as always. Marshall appeared in the doorway. They found Olivia. She's talking. It's not enough, Ryan said. They'll bury the evidence, disappear the witnesses. Unless. Unless what? He pulled out his phone, hands shaking. I recorded everything. Every meeting, every transaction. Insurance, I thought. But I never had the courage to use it. And now? Now I need your help. He held out the phone. One last recipe for sweet revenge. Together. I stared at the phone, remembering every lie, every betrayal. But also remembering Liam's face when he talked about his father. About family. You don't deserve forgiveness. I'm not asking for it. His voice hardened. I'm asking you to help me protect our son. For real this time. Marshall stepped closer. Whatever you decide, we need to move fast. These people will never touch my family again. I took the phone. But this time, Ryan, we do it my way. He nodded, relief and resignation mixing in his expression. First, I said, you tell Liam the truth. All of it. He deserves to know his father chose fear over faith. Mac. Then you sign over your share of Sweet Orchard Delights. Permanently. His jaw tightened, but he nodded again. And finally, I moved closer, letting him see the steel in my eyes. You remember this moment. When your wife, the one you thought needed protection, saved everything you were too weak to fight for. The guard opened the door. Marshall had his phone out, already coordinating with federal agents. In hours, Ryan's evidence would tear open a network of corruption that had poisoned our town for years. But as I walked away, leaving him with his choices and consequences, I realized something. Revenge wasn't about destroying your enemies. It was about reclaiming what they tried to take from you. Trust. Power. Truth. And sometimes, the sweetest revenge is simply showing them exactly who you've always been, whether they were ready to see it or not. Let's finish this, I told Marshall, my head high despite the pain. I have a business to run and a son to raise. And a new recipe to perfect, one that tasted like victory instead of vengeance. The morning sun streamed through Sweet Orchard Delight's windows as I unlocked the door, the bell's familiar chime echoing through the empty shop. My fingers traced the new security keypad, one of many changes since the federal raids that had shaken our town to its core. Chloe arrived early, carrying fresh local peaches. The farmers market sends their thanks. Your testimony saved their businesses. I nodded, sorting through yesterday's receipts. The shop had survived, stronger now without Ryan's shadow hanging over it. His guilty plea had made headlines, but it was his full cooperation that had truly surprised everyone. Everyone except Liam. Mom? His voice carried from the back room, where he sat with Ethan, surrounded by engine parts and jam jars. "Can I try the new recipe today?" "Only if you've finished your homework." "Already done." He held up a detailed drawing of what looked like a modified jar sealer. "Uncle Ethan helped me design it. It'll make production twice as fast." Ethan caught my eye, his smile saying everything about Liam's inherited mechanical genius. Some gifts skip a generation, it seems. The shop's bell chimed again. Detective Marshall entered, holding a familiar jar. "Found this in evidence. Thought you might want it back." The sweet revenge jar, cleaned of fingerprint dust but still bearing its battle scars. "Keep it," I said. "Consider it a reminder." "Of what?" "How revenge tastes. Of how it changes." I moved to the kitchen, pulling out fresh ingredients. Sometimes the best revenge is building something better from the ashes. He nodded, understanding dawning. Speaking of building, Ryan asked about visiting Liam. My hands stilled over the fruit. "What did you tell him?" "That it's not my decision." He set the jar down. "But if you're interested, he's been teaching other inmates about business fraud. Warning them about the price of fear over family." The irony wasn't lost on me. Ryan, finally finding his voice in a prison classroom. "Mom?" Liam appeared beside me, holding his design. "Is Dad really teaching people?" "Yes, baby. He is. Like you teach me about recipes?" My throat tightened. "Something like that. Maybe." He hesitated, fingers tracing his drawing. "Maybe he could teach me too. About what not to do." The wisdom in those words, from my 6-year-old son, hit harder than any revenge plot ever could. "We'll see." I pulled him close, breathing in the scent of motor oil and strawberry jam that had become his signature. "For now, how about you teach me about this invention of yours?" His face lit up. As he explained the mechanical details, I caught Ethan watching us, his expression soft with something more than friendship. "The timer needs adjusting," Liam was saying, "but once it's perfect." "Nothing's ever perfect, sweetheart." I touched the scar on my temple, a reminder of that night at Bennett's. But sometimes imperfect things make the best recipes. Marshall headed for the door, but paused. "The federal agents asked about your business model. Seems they're impressed by how you handled everything. Tell them Sweet Orchard Delights isn't for sale. Actually," he smiled, "they want you to teach other business owners about protecting themselves, spotting fraud, standing their ground." I looked around my shop, at Chloe organizing displays, Ethan teaching Liam mechanics between jam batches, the morning sun painting everything in possibilities rather than shadows. "I'll think about it." After Marshall left, I picked up the sweet revenge jar, studying my reflection in its glass. The woman who'd started this journey seeking vengeance wasn't the same one who'd finished it finding strength. "Ready to try that new recipe?" I asked Liam. "What's it called?" I set the jar aside, reaching instead for fresh fruit and clean glass. "How about we call it Fresh Start?" His answering smile told me everything I needed to know about the power of choosing growth over grudges, creation over destruction. And maybe that's the sweetest revenge of all.